I devoted 18 years to meticulously training my foolish younger brother into a perfect tool for carrying my bags. To my utter astonishment, he turned out to be the child who was mistakenly swapped at birth. On the very day the paternity test results were revealed, I gazed at the report, engulfed in silence. To my left stood my pseudo-brother, with striking eyebrows and bright eyes, looking at me with a pitiful expression, like a silly dog fearing expulsion from the family. To my right was my true brother, slender and pale, timidly observing me, anxious about being rejected, resembling a delicate flower. After deep contemplation, I extended my hands and simultaneously patted their shoulders. Very well, from this moment forth, I have 2 bag-carrying assistants. I have questioned more than once whether my brother truly belonged to our family. Not for any other reason, but due to his extraordinary foolishness. My father, a self-made prodigy in the business world, possesses an astute vision and invests across various fields without a single failure. He currently serves as the chairman of the group. My mother, the eldest daughter of a scholarly family, is proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, effortlessly composing poetry and prose. She presently holds a professorship in classical poetry at Peking University. As for myself, I was always the exemplary child, accumulating awards to the extent that I needed a sack to carry them, rapidly advancing through grades, and being exceptionally admitted to several prestigious business schools abroad. I have now returned, gradually taking over the family business. In contrast, my brother, at the age of 4, he struggled with bilingual education in an international kindergarten and was subtly advised by the principal to transfer. At 7, his remarkable performance of ranking last in mathematics and second last in language arts prompted my parents to jointly arrange tutoring, nearly becoming the catalyst for their divorce. At 10, he discovered that Santa Claus was a fabrication, resulting in a heart-wrenching fit of tears at home. Consequently, as the instigator of this revelation, I was compelled to accompany him on a private jet to Inner Mongolia to see reindeer, braving the frigid temperatures of -30 degrees. There were also the incidents of his changing teeth at 12 and being deceived at 15. In summary, every single incident is difficult to believe, as we both emerged from the same set of parents. For his sake, our family convened more than one family meeting. After extensive discussions, the unanimous decision was reached. Oh well, there is no hope. Let's just go with the flow. Perhaps our family is destined to require a sweet simpleton to balance the intellect. Fortunately, my brother is not devoid of merits. After experiencing a rapid growth spurt during adolescence, he has acquired a commendable height and a visage reminiscent of a star. As long as he refrains from speaking, taking him out still brings me much pride. Moreover, with his height, he can carry more shopping bags, allowing me to liberate my hands while shopping with him. I have a passion for shopping. To me, selecting a bag is no different from choosing a promising company. Both require a clear understanding of needs, observation, evaluation, and on-site investigation before making a decision. I relish the act of choosing, whether right or wrong. It is always an engaging experience. Acquiring everything outright may be simple, but it would also deprive me of much joy. My brother does not comprehend this, yet he is always at my beck and call. The reason is quite simple. He has been my shadow since childhood. It is rather remarkable that anyone subjected to constant comparisons with others might develop feelings of inferiority or jealousy. However, my brother is different. His logic goes as follows. I may not surpass my sister, but neither do you, and you lack an exceptional sister like mine, thus you cannot compare to me. To this day, I have yet to identify a flaw in this reasoning. Thus, armed with this extraordinary logic, he has grown up brimming with confidence, evolving into a cheerful and spirited young man, as well as my bag-carrying aide. So, how did I realize that he was mistakenly taken home? The story begins 2 days ago when I went shopping. Inviting a close friend and bringing along my brother, who often serves as our errand boy, I arrived at the shopping center, embarking on a delightful spree of purchasing. As the shopping bags in my brother's hands multiplied, our shopping adventure gradually approached its conclusion. Passing by a specialty toy store, we noticed a butter-colored bear dressed in a costume waving at us from the entrance. My friend, finding it adorable, asked me to take a photo. It was at this moment that the unexpected occurred. After the photo was taken, the bear swayed a couple of times and suddenly collapsed onto the ground. The heavy headpiece rolled off, revealing a young man's sweat-drenched profile. He appeared quite youthful, with delicate features, closed eyes, thin lips, and skin that bore an unusually pale hue. My heart skipped a beat, an inexplicable sense of familiarity flooding over me. Without a moment's hesitation, I commanded, "Sui, get him out of that costume. Hurry." Meanwhile, I dialed for a private ambulance. Sui, my brother, promptly knelt down and unzipped the cumbersome bear suit. As he worked, he remarked, "Sis, he seems to have suffered from heat stroke." Upon hearing this, I rummaged through my bag for wet wipes, placing them on the young man's forehead. Gradually, a few onlookers gathered, both customers and staff. Together, we lifted the young man onto a sofa inside the store. The atmosphere was chaotic, with the store manager particularly agitated, loudly complaining. "I can't believe this. If I had known, I wouldn't have hired him out of pity. A grown man fainting after a few hours in a costume. Who does he think he is? Is he trying to swindle me?" I shot him a sidelong glance and inquired, "How much do you pay him for a day's work?" The manager hesitated, mumbling, 70. 70. Sue was incredulous, rolling his eyes in disbelief. Anyone who knows this is a shopping plaza would think it's a slave market. "Would you work for $70? You're just taking advantage of his youth. Assuming he doesn't know the fair price, someone else would have given you a piece of their mind." The manager's expression turned sheepish, and he fell silent under Sue's rebuke. Once I deemed it sufficient, I intervened, saying, "Sue, that's enough." I casually glanced around and pointed at a shelf of blind boxes, declaring, "Wrap up all of those for me." The manager looked at me in astonishment, momentarily frozen. I added nonchalantly, "We're all facing challenges. There's no need to make things harder for each other. Remember to pay him for today's work." The manager nodded fervently, beaming, "Of course. I'll make sure to give him a generous bonus." "So, am I really getting these?" he cautiously confirmed. I shrugged, "Yes. Go ahead." Unbeknownst to me, the young man's eyelashes fluttered slightly. The ambulance arrived swiftly, with professional medical staff who efficiently loaded him onto the vehicle, commencing a series of examinations and treatments. I attempted to board but was pulled back by my brother, who looked puzzled and asked, "Sis, why are you so enthusiastic today?" Before I could respond, he suddenly tapped his head, as if having an epiphany. Leaning in conspiratorially, he whispered, "Sis, are you interested in him? You know, I feel a strange sense of closeness upon seeing him." He stroked his chin, pondering, "Perhaps this is what they call a fateful connection." Without raising my eyes, I swiftly delivered a playful slap to the back of his head. "You really do have a round head." I pulled him onto the ambulance, sitting beside him on the stretcher. Then, in response to his astonished gaze, I reached out and tugged at 2 strands of the young man's hair. "Wait, sis. What are you doing?" I maintained my composure as I arranged the hair back neatly, finally allowing myself to offer a hint. "Didn't you notice how much he resembles Mom when she was younger?" Sue looked down at the young man, then back at me, his eyes widening in alarm. He gulped, stammering, "Are you saying he's our mother-s?" Just before he could voice his shocking realization, I stepped on his foot with the heel of my shoe. "Oh ye, ach." 3. My parents had a love founded on freedom. Although both of them possessed rather cool personalities and were often preoccupied with their own lives, it was evident to any observer that their relationship was strong. My father frequently splurged at auctions, purchasing paintings and antiquities to delight my mother. My mother often prepared nourishing medicinal meals, quietly serving them to my father during his late-night work sessions. Consequently, I had never considered that they might encounter issues. The appropriate course of action in the face of a problem is to resolve it. I immediately instructed my assistant to investigate the young man's background. As a precaution, I also collected hair samples from my brother, my father, my mother, and myself, sending them for expedited paternity testing. My brother, unable to contain his curiosity, paced back and forth in my study like an elderly man after dinner, muttering to himself, "Sue, do you think he could be our kidnapped brother?" Me, "Impossible. I have clear memories from a young age." Sue, "Then someone must have stolen Mom's genes for illicit research." Me, "Scientific advancement hasn't reached that level yet." Sue, "I've got it. He has the true heir who is switched at birth." Me, "You should read fewer novels." Sue, "Sis." His tone turned flattering as he circled around to my back, giving me a gentle shoulder rub. "Just tell me. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep tonight." As I thumbed through documents, I finally voiced a more plausible theory. "It's likely a love child from a relative on Mom's side." In my brother's eyes, my conjecture was usually the truth. "So that's it. You gave me quite a scare." He sighed in relief, yawning as he returned to his room. "All right. Now I can sleep peacefully." After he left, I continued attending to paperwork, hardly giving the matter further thought. Although I had initially reacted impulsively, a careful analysis made it clear he bore a striking resemblance to our mother, was relatively young, physically frail, and lacked financial means. Given these conditions, it was evident that he was an unacknowledged child of little favor. The specific identity of the family, however, remained a mystery. Oh well, it wasn't particularly relevant to me. For the following morning, I received the young man's information. His name was Shun Jiyu, this year's top science student from a province, currently studying chemistry at Peking University. Wait, that seemed odd. Why would a Peking University student take a part-time job paying 70 yuan a day? As I perused the details, my brow furrowed slowly. Just then, the results of the paternity test arrived. I flipped straight to the results, which clearly indicated several lines of text. Exclusion of a familial relationship between Su Yi and Chu Shizhi. Support for a familial relationship between Shun Jiyu and Chu Shizhi. Oh dear. So, it turned out he was part of our family. 5. I examined the documents and reports repeatedly. Upon discovering that the hospital listed as his birthplace was the same as the one where my brother was born, I was reluctantly compelled to admit that my brother had indeed been switched at birth. As for whether this was an accident or intentional, further information would be required. The door was knocked on lightly, and my brother entered without ceremony. Sister, what are you busy with? Aunt Lu is calling you down for dinner. I swiftly closed the document and replied in a calm voice. Okay, I'll be down shortly. Just then, my phone began to vibrate unexpectedly. Upon answering, I realized it was a call from the hospital. Hello, is this Miss Su? The patient you brought in yesterday is recovering well, but... A cacophony of noise was audible in the background. I furrowed my brows and inquired, what is happening over there? The patient's mother has arrived and is causing quite a scene, claiming the hospital is scamming her. You see. I'll handle the payment. Just keep her calm and make sure she doesn't leave. I'll be there shortly. Alright, I'll communicate with her again. I hung up, grabbed my laptop and documents and hurried downstairs, directly getting into the car. Uncle Wang, take me to Kongrui Private General Hospital. The vehicle quickly started, and a familiar voice emerged from the backseat. Is there an issue at the hospital? Did something happen to that boy from yesterday? I turned my head abruptly, only to notice Su Yi sitting behind me. Feeling a rare headache, I asked, how did you follow me? After all, we were in this together. I naturally want to check on him, Su Yi replied eagerly. Have you found out who he is? I hesitated momentarily, unsure of how to respond. Finally, I waved my hand dismissively and replied vaguely, not quite clear yet. You can ask him when we get there. Upon arriving at the ward, we coincidentally witnessed a curly-haired woman with her hands on her hips, angrily berating the person in the hospital bed. How dare you, Shun Jiyu? You've truly gone too far. I told you to work, yet you had the audacity to come here pretending to be sick. And what is this about covering medical expenses? Go ask around. Who in the world would be so foolish? I provide for you every day. And you're colluding with the nurses to scam me? As she spoke, she suddenly reached out to rummage through Shun Ziyu's clothes. You're definitely hiding money again. Hand it over. Shun Ziyu remained silent, offering no rebuttal, his knuckles gripping the bedsheets in a stark white. Whether by coincidence or fate, he suddenly raised his gaze towards the doorway and locked eyes with me. Those were beautiful peach blossom eyes, reminiscent of mine, though they appeared on the verge of tears. I pushed the door open forcefully, causing it to slam against the wall with a loud bang, drawing the attention of everyone in the ward. Shun Linfang. I suppressed my anger and accurately called out her name, which I had just seen in the patient's information. Is this how you treat him every day? Shun Linfang paused for a moment, instinctively retorting, Who are you? I can take care of my own child. What business is it of yours? It certainly concerns me. I fixed my gaze upon her face, articulating each word deliberately. He is not your child. He is my son. Shun Linfang's pupils dilated instantly. But rather than shock, a glimmer of uncontrollable joy flickered across her face. Yet she continued to curse. I've raised him for 18 years. You think you can just say that? Do you have any proof? I tossed the paternity test in her direction. She caught the report and began to read it with an insatiable thirst. A few minutes later, she looked up, cleared her throat, and confirmed, So, you mean our children were switched at birth? I nodded and stated, That seems to be the case. However, just to be safe, I'll need to take a hair sample from you for another paternity test with my brother. Upon hearing this, her gaze finally left me and shifted to Su Yi beside her. My son, she exclaimed, tears welling in her eyes. What is the point of a test? You and your father look exactly alike. With that, she lunged forward to embrace Su Yi. Startled, Su Yi instinctively ducked behind me, his towering height of nearly 6 feet 9 inches, making him an easy target. Su Yi. Ah, sister, save me. I subtly reached out to steady Shin Linfong, saying, if you're certain of that, then I won't waste any more time. Let us discuss this. Shen Linfong. Discuss what? Let us discuss the compensation for my two brothers. Shen Linfong showed no sign of surprise. On the contrary, she appeared to have awaited this moment for quite some time. Standing tall, like a general preparing for battle, she boldly declared, let me tell you. I raised him through hardships. Before she could finish, I handed her a black card. 5 million, password 6 zeros. Her words caught in her throat as the previously overwhelming demeanor dissipated, her expression becoming considerably clearer. She struggled to refuse this ISNT just about money. I then retrieved another black card. 5 million, password 6 ones. She was momentarily stunned, overwhelmed by the monetary offer. The hand that had intended to refuse trembled slightly, instinctively reaching for the black card. Just then I withdrew my hand. Her gaze sharpened instantly. What is going on? You're not having second thoughts, are you? I shook my head, of course not. The money can be yours, but it will have to wait until tomorrow after I review the surveillance footage. What footage? I smiled. The hospital surveillance footage. If the children were switched at birth, we must ascertain the reason behind it. If it was an accident, that's one thing. But if it was intentional, then that's a case of child trafficking, which carries a prison sentence. Shun Linfong's body stiffened, and she chuckled awkwardly. It's been so long. Can you still find anything? Otherwise, why bother? Both children are doing well now. What is the point of complicating matters? I reassured her. No need to worry. We were in a premium hospital room at the time, and there are surveillance records to check. Oh, that's good. Then I can rest easy. Though she said this, beads of cold sweat began to form on her forehead, and she appeared increasingly restless. Suddenly, she turned abruptly and walked towards the exit. Oh no. It's almost noon. I need to go home to cook for my younger son. Shin, you can rest for now. I'll come back to see you when you're feeling better, and as for you. Interjected Xuchi. Miss Su. There's no rush regarding the surveillance. Take your time to investigate, and we will contact each other later. With that, she hastily grabbed her bag and vanished through the door. I called my assistant to arrange for a private investigator to look into the matter from years ago. Then, I contacted Aunt Lu to prepare a clean room. I also messaged my parents, insisting they return home tonight without fail. After completing all these tasks, I turned to face my two newly discovered unfortunate brothers. Shun Zhu sat on the hospital bed, cautiously observing me, quickly averting his gaze the moment our eyes met. As for Su Yi, he looked as though he could barely breathe. I sighed. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. No sooner had I finished speaking than Su Yi blurted out eagerly, Sister, where did you get that 10 million black card? It was to intimidate her. I replied expressionlessly, I have money, but I'm not foolish. She definitely has ulterior motives. I needed to bait her into action. Oh. Su Yi responded, looking at me with an unusually shy expression. So, can I still go home tonight? To be honest, he possesses a pair of drooping, dog-like eyes which, while not unattractive, even possess a hint of cuteness. However, that sentiment is applicable only to the opposite sex. As his sister, my heart remains untouched. I swiftly delivered a playful slap to his head, retorting, Then where do you wish to go? He chuckled, instantly straightening his posture. I waved him off with a hint of disdain. Enough, it's not your concern. Go play, but be sure to return home punctually for the meeting tonight. He nodded, glanced at the individual on the hospital bed, and turned to leave. The once noisy ward fell into a sudden hush. I approached the bedside and tidied up the disarray around Shinjiu. He was silent, and I found myself at a loss for words. Regarding this unexpectedly introduced younger brother, I felt a sense of responsibility and concern, yet we were still strangers. Fortunately, I possessed a remarkable skill in social interaction, honed since childhood, never failing me. I produced a black card and presented it to him. 5 million, with a password of 6 sixes. I emphasized, this time, it's genuine. Shun Jiu paused, repeatedly shaking his head. No, Miss Su, I can't. I interrupted him, incorrect. He gazed at me in confusion, a hint of awkwardness on his face. Thus, I reminded him, not Miss Su, you should address me as Sister. For reasons unbeknownst to me, his face flushed crimson. After a prolonged moment, he stammered, Sister. Satisfied, I nodded and inquired, Are you feeling any better? He shyly replied, It's nothing serious, just a bit of heat stroke. The doctor said I'm fine now. Excellent, then let us change your clothes and go out with me this afternoon. He didn't question the purpose, merely nodded gently. All right. How should I put it? Compared to Su-yi, he appeared excessively obedient. Reflecting on how this might have been cultivated through deliberate suppression, I couldn't help but resolve to increase the bonuses for the detective and the lawyer. As for the foolish younger brother, there are methods to nurture him. The obedient brother requires a different approach. I cleared my throat and said earnestly, "Listen well. I am about to impart to you the most crucial lesson for integrating into our family." Shun Jiu immediately tensed. "What is it?" I forcibly thrust the black card into his hand, smiling. "It's, of course, spending money. Do not underestimate the act of spending. The quickest way to understand a person is to observe how they allocate their finances." I first took Shin Jiu to a salon, where his somewhat disheveled hair was trimmed, rendering him fresh and tidy. After lunch, we ventured to a shopping mall. My requirement was simple: to exhaust the funds on the card. However, Shun Jiu's eyes widened in astonishment, and he hastily protested, "I can't spend that much." I smiled. "If you don't spend it all, you're not allowed to go home." He relented. "All right, I'll give it a try." Thus, for the next 2 hours, I watched him repeat a series of reactions, selecting items, inquiring about prices, eyes widening in shock, glancing at me, then gritting his teeth to make a purchase. I couldn't help but chuckle. It was evident he was trying his best. Nevertheless, he still hadn't managed to spend even a tenth of the card's value. There was no helping it. His choices were predominantly trivial. The total for his phone, computer, and tablet barely reached 200,000, and the few clothing items he selected were only worth 1 or 2,000, with other miscellaneous items being utterly negligible. In summary, he had been somewhat generous, albeit with a mere sprinkling of expenditure, until we passed a jewelry store, at which point he abruptly halted. Inside the central glass display case lay an exquisite emerald camellia brooch, priced at 3.68 million. Shun Jiu paused for a moment, then stepped inside. He retrieved the black card and pointed at the brooch. A few minutes later, the brooch emerged, nestled in a lovely box, handed to me. "Sister," he called out, slightly embarrassed. "This is for you." I was taken aback, momentarily speechless. Was I touched? Not quite. Did my heart soften? Yes, it did. One does not become a harmonious family merely through blood ties. It necessitates respect, understanding, assistance, and inescapable responsibility, alongside the tenderness, favoritism, and care that bind us. I believed that Shun Jiu would make a wonderful family member. Hence, I accepted the brooch and pinned it to the left lapel of my dress. The vibrant emerald complemented my black gown beautifully. I raised my hand and tousled his hair. "Thank you, I truly love it." His ears flushed bright red, and he turned his head away, flustered. "I'll go pick out some gifts for the others." I raised an eyebrow and caught his arm. "Enough. It's not like we're visiting relatives for the new year. It's not customary for younger ones to present gifts upon first meeting. Let us go. I'll take you to buy something more expensive." I led him directly to have several tailored suits made, along with a few casual outfits and shoes, effortlessly depleting the remaining funds. As the saying goes, one is judged by their attire. In just a few hours, I had transformed Shin Jiu from a naive flower into a refined young gentleman. Of course, it would be even better if he were a tad more confident. I took him back home in the car. As we passed through the front gate, he suddenly grasped my wrist tightly. I turned in surprise, and he hurriedly released it, his eyelashes trembling. "I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous." Since it was no significant matter, I simply grasped his hand back, reassuring him it's all right. "You'll get used to it." He lowered his gaze, staring at our intertwined hands, and softly acknowledged. Unlike the emotional reunions depicted in most novels, the members of my family reacted rather stoically to the mix-up. This is primarily due to their inherently reserved nature. Rather than expressing emotions, they tend to focus on resolving issues. Since my earliest memories, my mother has always been calm and unhurried, while my father is direct and stern, rarely displaying a smile. I suppose I am a blend of both. While Su-yi, well, he has always been the weepy type, sobbing for 3 days after accidentally stepping on a snail caught in the garden. However, despite their apparent lack of emotional upheaval, the material treatment they received certainly reflected their significance. At the dinner table, my mother gently engaged Shin Jiu in conversation about university matters, providing him with contact information for a few professors in relevant fields, encouraging him to seek their guidance whenever necessary. My father, on the other hand, was far more brusque, straightforwardly handing Shen Jiu several property deeds and gifting him a few luxury cars. He then declared that a banquet would be held next month to formally acknowledge his return, with Su-yi's status being changed to that of an adopted son. This may sound somewhat callous, but at least it meant Sui was not cast aside. And Shin Ji was not treated unfairly, making it a relatively equitable decision. Neither party voiced any objections. Thus, Shun Ji settled in. Coincidentally, both he and Sui were on summer break, seeing each other daily without fail. Consequently, the following month entered an awkward adjustment period. Well, the only one who found it awkward was Sui. Shun Ji maintained a positive demeanor, greeting everyone politely whenever they met. In contrast, Sui, who is typically friendly with everyone, appeared notably withdrawn around Shin Ji. He seemed uncertain about how to approach him, especially since, from a factual standpoint, he was the sole beneficiary of this incident. Thus, it wasn't too long before he took off on a vacation to Bali, ostensibly to play with friends. Incidentally, just a few days after his departure, Shen Linfeng's investigation yielded results. She had been a nurse at the hospital and had deliberately switched the two children, seeking to extort money in the process. The family even located the original wristbands from the infants, which clearly bore the name Chu Shizi's son, serving as irrefutable evidence. Under the dual pressures of financial and legal consequences, she was sentenced to 6 years in prison. As for her husband and the unruly child that followed, though they narrowly escaped incarceration, having offended my family, their lives will not be particularly pleasant. The entire process unfolded with remarkable ease, as if someone had conveniently placed the evidence into my hands. I shared the outcome with everyone in the family. Their reactions were rather subdued. Sui had only met her once. Despite being her biological son, she regarded him merely as a tool for profit. Shun Jiu, who spent every day with her, was subjected to random scoldings and treated as a servant due to their blood relation. Throughout it all, her self-centeredness was glaring, and when calamity struck, it was evident that no one would care for her. Although Sui was in Bali, he was never absent from my notifications. He either boasted about the fish he caught or fervently sent me pictures of the colorful shells he collected. About a fortnight later, he called for video chat. When the call connected, a sun-kissed, handsome face appeared. He leaned against the hotel balcony, the shimmering sea behind him. "Sister, can you see any changes in me?" I observed his gleaming 8 white teeth and remarked, "Indeed, you've transformed from a golden retriever to a German shepherd." "What? I'm not that dark," he protested, pouting. "It must be the dim lighting. I've been diligent about sun protection." I chuckled and inquired, "When do you plan to return?" He turned his head away, replying vaguely, "In a few days." "All right, just make sure to come back before the banquet." I didn't rush him, but gently reminded him a few times. "If you feel awkward, you can stagger your schedule a bit after school so that you won't run into him too often. Don't overthink it. You're still a part of this family, and everything will remain as it is." He listened quietly, falling into a contemplative silence. The sea breeze tousled his fringe, revealing his amber dog-like eyes, soft and glistening. "Sister," he asked softly, "am I useless?" Though I was unsure how the conversation had veered into this territory, it seemed devoid of any logical progression. Yet, with my years of experience, I recognized the signs that he was on the verge of tears. Almost instinctively, I replied, "Of course not. Why would you think that?" Because he lowered his gaze, my logic has failed me. There are indeed people who are smarter and more accomplished than I am, and they even share the same sister as I do. He hung his head, uncertain whether he was questioning me or himself. What should I do? I realized that the flaw in his reasoning lay here. No matter how much external grandeur is ascribed to a person, as long as they fail to recognize their own worth, they will never experience true success. Sui had lingered too long in my shadow, preventing him from seeing himself. "You asked what use you are? You possess striking good looks, a cheerful disposition, a passion for sports, and a melodious singing voice. Most importantly," I lightly tapped the table, "I recently acquired an entertainment company." "Sui," I asked, "have you ever considered becoming a star?" He seemed momentarily dazed by my barrage of compliments, his cheeks tinged with a faint blush, his eyes sparkling. I don't know. Can I?" I was about to nod in affirmation when a knock interrupted us. I muted the call and invited the person in. Shun Jiu entered, holding a cup of warm milk. I was just heading upstairs, and Aunt Lu asked me to bring this up. He placed the milk on the table and politely inquired, "Are you still busy? I hope I'm not interrupting." I shook my head. "Not at all. I've nearly wrapped everything up." "Great," he smiled. "Then I'll head back to my room." "Sister, make sure to rest early." "Wait, take this." I called out to him, handing him an old book. "Is this the first edition of the book I mentioned last time?" His eyes sparkled with delight as he flipped through its pages. "A friend bought it back then. and I asked him for a copy. Thank you, I will treasure it. I waved him off with a smile. Yes, sleep early. Tomorrow, have the butler set up a bookshelf for you. Once Shunju left, I resumed my conversation with Sue-yi, only to find his expression had undergone a dramatic transformation. Any trace of fragility or confusion had vanished, replaced by a serious demeanor. Sister, he said through gritted teeth, I'm coming home tomorrow. As expected, early the next morning, I saw Sue-yi standing at the door with a large suitcase. Upon seeing me, he rushed forward and enveloped me in a grand embrace, only to be met with my elbow nudging him away. I warned him, expressionless, go wash up. He shuddered, murmured an "oh," and obediently retreated to his room to bathe. As he passed by Shinji-yu, he greeted him normally, to which Shinji responded with a smile, creating a harmonious scene. Regarding Shinji-yu, he had adapted remarkably well over the past month, though he was not particularly fond of going out. Apart from occasionally attending lectures with his mother at the university to familiarize himself with the environment, he spent most of his time at home engrossed in books. He was the type of child who endeared himself to elders, intelligent, eager to learn, fair-skinned, and well-behaved. Not only did the professors take a liking to him, but the household staff and butler also enjoyed engaging him in casual conversation. After Sue-yi hastily finished his refreshing shower, we had breakfast together before heading to the entertainment company. My suggestion for him to become a star was a spontaneous thought, even if it didn't pan out. It didn't matter. What he needed was merely a path to prove himself, and he could take his time figuring out which path was right for him. Oyi, however, appeared enthusiastic. Hence, I entrusted him to the most experienced agent at the company, offering a few words of caution before stepping back. The agent enrolled him in a trial reality show that required 100 participants to live and eat together. Consequently, shortly after returning home, he was compelled to leave once more. However, to my utter astonishment, just a few days later, the show's premiere made waves on social media. Sue-yi had gone viral, in a manner I had not anticipated. Heaven owes me a brother like this. The first time I saw him debuting as my sister's protege, I clicked to witness how a sister complex is formed. The online community was in a frenzy, desperately searching for the mysterious sister. As I observed the rising trends on social media, I was struck by a rare sense of impending doom. I finally grasped the meaning of familial misfortune and the embarrassment of losing face. Even my father, who was on a business trip abroad, called to tease me about it. The catalyst for this uproar was Sue-yi's performance during the QA segment, which had been edited and circulated online. The show's question was, why did you choose to participate in our program? Amidst a plethora of answers highlighting dreams, passions, personal growth, and unique experiences, Sue-yi beamed with a radiant smile and delivered an astonishing response. My sister made me come. Additionally, he expressed, the person I admire most? My sister. The one I am most grateful to? My sister. The one I appreciate the most? My sister. Oh, you mean on the show? No one. Goals I wish to achieve. I don't have any goals. My sister says what matters is that I'm happy. Countless such declarations ensued. Of course, aside from this, the true reason for his meteoric rise was his cheerful personality, handsome visage, and commendable singing and dancing skills. Yet, this did not prevent the label of sister complex from being firmly attached to him. Everyone was intrigued about the kind of sister who could occupy his thoughts so incessantly. As the online chaos escalated, I opted to shut down the app, preferring not to see and not to fret. Public enthusiasm is fleeting. I estimated it would dwindle within a few days. However, the tide of events swiftly turned once more. Sue-yi's biological father and that brother of his bizarrely took to live streaming online, vehemently accusing the son they had never met, fabricating all manner of non-existent scandals about him, and nitpicking his every utterance. Even the so-called sister was merely a fabrication, designed to capture attention. The once cherished national younger brother swiftly morphed into a backstabbing wolf, attracting a plethora of scandalous allegations and criticisms. I seldom find myself enraged. Yet the Shun family has truly showcased their prowess in provoking me not once, but twice. Such audacity deserves recognition. I promptly contacted the platform to shut down their live stream and subsequently pursued them in court for defamation. My biological father received a sentence of 3 years, while my son, having just turned 14, was confined to a juvenile detention center for a year of reformation. Although the duration is brief, the family is now neatly gathered together. I wish them a harmonious reunion within the confines of prison. I captured a photograph of the verdict and shared it through the company's account, adding a caption, "The internet is not a lawless realm." Shortly thereafter, Sue-yi under his conspicuous account, subtly boasted in the comments. "Ah, it's really not a big deal. It's just that my sister is overly protective of me." Below, the crowd echoed in unison, repeating the same phrase. "Oh, oh, oh, it's just that my sister is overly protective of me." Observing the comment section, I began to ponder a question. How could I ensure he joins them in confinement? Soo-yi, at 13, evaded incarceration. Moreover, he emerged from the production team. With the first phase of the talent show concluded, each participant was granted a 2-day respite, perfectly timed for attending Shun Ji-yu's family reunion banquet. The banquet hall, resplendent and opulent, was brimming with guests. My father raised his glass, formally announcing Shun Ji-yu's identity. When inquiries arose, he did not shy away from revealing the truth behind the mix-up. The guests, upon hearing this, merely offered a few remarks of astonishment before resuming their discussions. This was not a matter of great significance, merely an oddity. After all, 5 years prior, the heir of the Su family had already been designated as me. As long as my status remains unshaken, whether due to a mix-up or the existence of several illegitimate children, it is of no concern to anyone else. Once the explanation concluded, the guests consciously divided into circles, forming clusters of 3 or 4. In such gatherings, cliques abound. One group consisted of affluent ladies. Another comprised those in power. A third included heirs, while the wealthy second generation, business partners, and the insignificant were all brought together, yet remained distinctly separate. I greeted Shin Ji-yu and my acquaintances within my circle. After a while, their younger siblings took the initiative to engage him in conversation. However, as the banquet progressed, I scanned the room and noticed Shin Ji was absent. After a moment's thought, I made my way to the terrace. As anticipated, he stood alone at the edge, solitary. I approached and gently tapped his shoulder. He turned abruptly, and upon seeing me, relaxed visibly. "Sister, what brings you here?" "I noticed your absence and came to check on you." I inquired, "Do you not enjoy such gatherings?" "Not exactly." He lowered his gaze and replied softly, "I'm just a bit unaccustomed to it." Following his line of sight, I observed Soo-yi engaged in light-hearted conversation with several individuals, recently entering the entertainment industry. Many were teasing or gossiping about him. Laughter wafted through the evening breeze, creating a lively atmosphere. Just then, someone suddenly remarked, "No wonder our ego is so popular. He can become famous just by appearing on a show. Unlike that one tonight, looking all shabby and lowering the standards of our banquet." A moment of silence ensued as all eyes turned to Soo-yi. Would he agree or refute? His reaction would determine the direction of the situation. A cheerful laugh escaping him. As the atmosphere lightened, he suddenly kicked out. "If you can't speak properly, then get lost." He cursed. "When did it become your place to judge my family?" With that, he turned and walked away. Shin Ji watched the scene with a lowered head, curiously asking, "Is that person a friend of Soo-yi-ga?" "I'm not sure," he asked a stranger. I turned to him and unexpectedly smiled. "But I suspect he might know you." His pupils widened slightly, a mix of shock and simple surprise crossing his face. "Sister," he asked softly, "are you doubting me?" "Not doubt, but certainty." My tone was calm. "Ji-yu, let us have a conversation." On a summer night, the moon shone exceptionally bright. I gazed at his visage, momentarily experiencing a disconcerting reflection of myself. We share the same blood, possess similar features, and naturally, share an equal measure of intellect. From our very first encounter, everything was orchestrated by him. He feigned heat exhaustion. He intentionally provoked Shin Linfeng. He handed me the evidence of the swap. He incited that father-son duo to go live. He encouraged that individual to test Soo-yi. He was not the naive and innocent flower. Rather, he was a meticulously strategizing hunter. Just like now. In an instant of panic, he regained his composure. "What do you wish to discuss?" "Let us talk about when you discovered you were the one who was swapped at birth." He tilted his head, contemplating earnestly for a moment before shaking it. "I can't recall clearly, perhaps around 8 or 9 years old. Initially, they were somewhat kind to me. After all, they raised me to deceive for money, not to harbor enmity. Their plan was to raise me for 3 to 5 years before seeking compensation from you. Do you know why 3 to 5 years? Because a shorter time demands less money, while a longer duration becomes unprofitable." He sighed, reflecting, "But they were too foolish, sister. They only remembered my name and phone number. And when they finally wanted money after a few years, they couldn't locate you. You had moved and your number had changed. They became anxious, bickering daily at home, ultimately deciding to abandon me and hastily conceive another child." At this point, he suddenly chuckled, though it was unclear whom he was laughing at. Once their biological son was born, I became even more dispensable. If not for a neighbor's report, they wouldn't have even allowed me to attend school. Yet, what was the point of schooling? My clothes were cast-offs, I received not a single cent, and household chores still awaited me. Luckily, my classmates were affluent. Initially, I helped them with homework and ran errands, later gaming on their behalf. They snuck me into internet cafes, and while gaming, I secretly searched for information about you. Finally, I uncovered your address. That year, I was 14. I was taken aback and couldn't help but ask, "Then why didn't you come to find us?" He regarded me silently for a long while before eventually lowering his gaze. "I came," he said, "but at that time, you were celebrating your brother's birthday." The day he overheard that he was the one who had been swapped at birth marked the most liberating moment for Shinji-yu. He had long pondered why his parents' demeanor had shifted so drastically. Had he committed some grave error? Was it because he had made a serious mistake that they favored others and withheld even a modicum of affection from him? Little did he know. The truth was far more liberating. It was because he was not their biological child that he was destined to be devoid of their love. As a mere tool for financial gain, he could effortlessly relinquish all expectations and rightfully despise them. What a relief that was. He pretended to be timid at home while seeking evidence, all the while using various means to accumulate money at school. Chu Shitsi, the name of his biological mother. Affluent family, likely aged between 30 and 45, with a son the same age as him. With these scant clues, he set out to find his true family. Remarkably, he succeeded. It was a photograph taken casually by a student. In a brightly lit lecture hall, a woman of striking beauty stood at its center, her features vaguely familiar. He sought information on the official website, and the moment he laid eyes on it, his heart raced. It read, "Professor of Classical Poetry at Peking University, Chu Shitsi." Once he discerned her identity, everything thereafter became significantly simpler. Shun Jiyu feigned being an aficionado of classical poetry, added a student who posted photos, and financially compensated him to assist in recording lectures. The student was exceptionally warm-hearted, not only refusing payment, but also voluntarily offering his help. Shun Jiyu diligently downloaded and saved those indistinct videos, listening to her lectures as he drifted into slumber on serene, quiet nights. Chu Shitsi approached her classes with utmost seriousness, rarely indulging in idle chatter, yet occasionally, she would share snippets about her life. Among these fleeting remarks, her daughter, an older sister by 4 years, was mentioned with the highest frequency. The sister had skipped grades, received accolades, ventured out independently, and conquered challenging examinations. Though her tone was perpetually understated, the love and pride concealed within were unmistakable. Even as an onlooker, Shun Jiyu couldn't help but feel a surge of yearning. "Sister." He silently repeated the word. A brilliant sister, an exceptional sister, a formidable sister. Might she become his family? He buried his head beneath the covers, blushing as he pondered. Would she like him? It seemed as though the heavens had heard his wish. A few months later, during a conversation, he suddenly learned that the student who had assisted him in recording lectures was, in fact, a graduate student of Chu Shitsi. Serendipitously, just days later, the student posted an update, sharing a photo taken at his mentor's home. Beyond the vast glass windows lay a vibrant, flourishing garden, with distant brick-red rooftops. Shun Jiyu swiftly clicked to download the image and opened a map to conduct a visual search. Countless similar images surfaced, and he meticulously compared them one by one. Finally, in a photograph of a villa for sale, he discovered an identical scene. It was located in a well-known affluent district of the city. 3 days later, Shun Jiyu, armed with all his savings, donned his cleanest attire and traveled there. The villa district was situated in a tranquil area far from the city center, surrounded by dense trees and vast expanses. Fortuitously, this provided him with the opportunity he sought. He found a secluded corner and, with his slight frame, squeezed himself through the railing. Shielded by the foliage, he cautiously advanced. Midway through, he encountered a lady carrying a package. An idea struck him, and he pretended to be a relative of the Chu family's maid, claiming to be lost on his first visit. Perhaps due to his youth, the lady, without suspicion, cheerfully offered him directions. The weather was sweltering, sweat trickled down his brow, yet his heart soared with excitement, brimming with an uncontainable zest. Approaching noon, he finally reached his destination. Before he even spotted anyone, it was laughter that first reached his ears. Joyful, relaxed, unrestrained laughter. Following the sound, he peered through the narrow, ornate fence and beheld a group of children his age frolicking in the garden. They wore soft, well-fitted clothing, adorned with exquisite hairstyles, each appearing impeccably clean. Water from a fountain flowed gently, and flowers exuded their vibrant fragrance. A three-tiered strawberry cream cake stood at the center of the courtyard, its candles, like fireworks, ablaze. A handsome youth donned a birthday hat, extinguished the candles, and everyone laughed heartily as they began to share the cake. The youth selected a slice abundant with strawberries, eagerly handing the first piece to a girl standing behind him. It was at that moment Shin Ji first laid eyes on his sister. She resembled him, yet at the same time did not. For reasons unknown, despite their similar features, hers appeared exceptionally aloof. This left Shin Ji lingering outside, hesitant to approach. The transformation occurred in the next instant. After accepting the cake, she suddenly offered a faint smile, as if the spring breeze had melted the winter's frost. She then lifted her gaze, peering through the ornate fence at him. Shin Ji felt as if he were rooted to the spot. His body stiffened, paralyzed with trepidation. As he watched her figure draw nearer, she opened the door, standing before him with a piece of cake in hand. She inquired, "Strawberry? Would you like some?" In that moment, it felt as though a weary traveler had finally discovered a source of water, nearly bringing him to tears with joy. He parted his lips. Yet no sound emerged. There was too much to say. Countless words jostled within his throat, rendering him at a loss as to where to begin. He longed to express that her parents treated him poorly, seeking only to exploit him for money, yet he was clever enough to escape. He wished to convey that he had never given up, having searched for so long, and had finally found his way here. He yearned to declare, "I am your family." He even wanted to call her sister. Alas, someone else spoke that title before he could. "What are you doing over there?" The birthday-hatted youth approached him, inspecting him with curiosity. Where did this little kid come from? Why is he so dirty? The words were devoid of malice, merely inquisitive, yet they struck with enough cruelty. Through those eyes, Shin Ji saw himself, disheveled hair, a frail frame, face drenched in sweat. His clothes were wrinkled, and his shoes were caked with fresh, brown soil. In that moment, the fragile esteem he had clung to crumbled. The words he had intended to speak were swallowed whole. Instead, a hand shot up in indignation. The sun blazed overhead. In the astonished gazes of all present, he swatted the cake away. Strawberries rolled across the ground, and the pristine white cream was sullied with dirt. He lowered his head and fled with great speed, as if seeking refuge within the shadows. It is arduous to articulate his feelings at that moment, a tumultuous blend of shame, inferiority, fury, grievance, resentment, and profound fear. He dreaded being recognized, terrified of being acknowledged by the long-awaited family in such a setting. He ran, nearly in despair, thinking, "It would be better to die." My memory is remarkably sharp, and I can vividly recall the scene from that year. It was Soo-Yi's birthday, and a small boy stood outside, gazing longingly inside, looking particularly emaciated, as if malnourished. I felt a twinge of compassion and brought him a piece of cake, hoping to inquire about which family he belonged to. To my surprise, I later told him, "I'm afraid I immediately gave Soo-Yi a beating and had the butler inquire nearby, but there was no news of you, so." Thus, the matter faded away until now. I felt a pang of sadness. It turned out I had an opportunity to lend him a hand during his suffering. Yet, self-pity is not my nature. Thus, I continue to ask, what about the following years? Did you fare well? Not too bad. I lived on campus, excelled in my studies, and earned a scholarship, supplemented with a bit of part-time work to support myself. I grew up, and that family could no longer control me. At most, they would demand a little money, and we coexisted without much trouble. Suddenly, Shin Ji appeared to recall something and inquired, "Do you know why I pretended to faint in the mall?" I was momentarily taken aback and shook my head. He smiled, his eyes crinkling, and said, "It's clean there." "Sister," he said, "at least for our first meeting, I wanted to be clean." I looked into his eyes, momentarily at a loss for words. Or perhaps, regardless of what language I might employ, it all seemed somewhat pale in comparison at that moment. I took a deep breath and posed the final question of the night. "Shin Ji, did you contact that father and son out of a desire for revenge against them or against Soo-Yi?" The smile vanished from his face. He murmured, "You still protect him." After a considerable duration, he seemed to relent, murmuring, "Very well, since you wish to know the answer, I shall reveal it to you." Shin Ji gazed at me with a bitter smile. He confessed, "Sister, I loathe him. I detest that he has seized my life, taken my family, and stands proud of it. I despise that he can possess everything I desire without lifting a finger. I abhor his integrity and brightness, which render me akin to a rat in a gutter." Why should he have everything so effortlessly? He turned his head away, his eyes reddening. Yet he continued to speak with fierce determination. I shall take my revenge. I will drag him down into the mire. Just as he has done to me, his voice abruptly ceased. I embraced him, a long overdue hug that had been years in the making. I am sorry, I whispered. For all these years, you have suffered. This was something I should have expressed upon our first encounter. Yet his overly composed demeanor led us all to overlook this crucial matter. Perhaps unaccustomed to being embraced, Shunziyu stiffened, his arms remaining motionless, but his voice softened. What is the point of saying this now? It serves no purpose, I replied candidly, but there are a few points in your earlier words that I must correct. He clutched my clothing tightly and inquired, what? I lowered my voice, articulating each word with care. You are not a rat in a gutter. You are formidable, intelligent, diligent, and remarkable. Place anyone in your circumstances, and they would not surpass your achievements. You are a flower blossoming from the mud. You need not take pride in us. Rather, we are the ones who take pride in you. I earnestly reiterated, Shinjiyu, I feel immense pride to have you as my brother. With a soft plop, warm tears fell, soon becoming a cascade, like a gentle rain pooling in the crook of my neck. You're lying, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You're just trying to console me. I am not deceiving you. After a moment of contemplation, I dropped a bombshell. Your actions have not gone unnoticed by Mom and Dad. He froze for a moment, tears streaming more fiercely now. I quickly reassured him. But they still held a reunion banquet. Do you know why? Why? He asked. I released him and gently ruffled his hair. Because we are family. In front of family. You can cry, throw tantrums, be angry, complain, and even make mistakes. We may argue frequently and have differing opinions, but that is inconsequential. You need not be perfect. No matter who you are, we will love you. The moonlight cast a gentle silver sheen, enveloping the atmosphere in tranquility. Just as I was about to delve deeper into his heart's burdens, footsteps approached. Sue, while walking, called out, Sister, Dad is looking for you. Suddenly, he halted, glancing between me and the tear-stained Shinjiyu. Did I arrive at an inopportune moment? Shinjiyu, with an impassive expression, asked, Sister, can I really hit him? I smiled. You cannot defeat him. Allow me to handle it. Afterward, our family convened another meeting, this time centered on apologies. Sue apologized to Shinjiyu for past grievances, while Shinjiyu expressed his remorse to Sue regarding the live stream incident. Sue felt utterly baffled. What is there to apologize for? If it weren't for their live stream, I wouldn't have had the chance to prove how incredible my sister is to everyone. Shinjiyu dropped his pretense, letting out a caustic laugh that carried a sharp edge. Indeed, it takes my sister to help you with such trivial matters. One might think you are still weaning. The two soon erupted into a quarrel. The family meeting ended in disarray. From that point forward, it seemed as though they had awakened to an odd sense of rivalry. Sui shot to fame with a new film, while my entertainment company flourished. In a swift turn, Shunjiyu devised a new patent, causing my manufacturing industry's profits to soar. A fierce competition between the two brothers led to my own gain. I quickly garnered industry acclaim due to an impressive return on investment, smoothly taking over a significant portion of domestic enterprises. If there was a singular regret, it would be that shopping had become rather noisy. Sue remarked, I heard your new research is about to be released. Shouldn't you be focused on testing instead of shopping? Shunji retorted, if big stars can spare the time, why can't I? But you? Be careful not to run into fans again, or we'll be surrounded and unable to move. Sue protested, I told you. The last time was an accident. This time, my disguise is foolproof. Shunji countered, indeed. Anyone who sees you will guard their wallets, fearing you might swipe it, without them noticing. As their argument escalated, a friend nearby raised an eyebrow and asked with concern, is it all right for them to be like this? I calmly assured, it's fine. One gets used to it. We are all family. By the way, what do you think of this bag? It's beautiful. Perfectly complements your coat. I think so too. I'll buy it. The staff assisted in packing my purchase, and as I casually handed the shopping bag aside, Sui and Shunjiu exchanged a glance, both reaching out simultaneously, exclaiming, Sister, let me carry it. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and like to support us. Until we meet again in the next story.